Ladies and gentlemen, the following episode is scheduled for one fall. Coming down the aisle are your hosts of In The Kliq, Baby Huey and BrianTronic.
What's up, everybody? Baby Huey here, and joining me once again is my tag team partner, BrianTronic. How's it going, man?
It's going good, man. I'm feeling good. Ready to get it going.
Yes, here we are back at it for another episode of In The Kliq. And Brian, look at this. This is actually, for the Kliqsters who don't know, this is our third night in a row recording together. So
we're on a freaking roll.
Yeah. So if you're listening right now, please go back and listen to our previous episode. That was the very WWE heavy episode of In The Kliq. We talked all the major news stories from the last couple weeks, and talked about what's some of the major stuff that happened on Raw and SmackDown. So a lot of stuff there. We covered a lot of the big stuff from the last couple weeks that we hadn't had a chance to record yet. And then last night, we recorded a brand new episode of the Bulletcast. It was the Bulletcast Awards, right? The Casties, is that what Phil calls it?
That's right.
So yeah, it's Phil does a great job with that. The Bulletcast Awards, End of the Year Awards, and so you, myself, Phil, Brandon, and Katie, all five of us, went over the nominees for all the different categories and the winners and give our thoughts on it. So I think. Let's see. Well, I know you and I are recording right now tonight on a Wednesday night, and I think Phil's going to have that hopefully out by Thursday. I think Thursday is normally release day for the Bulletcast. So if you're listening to this right now, most likely the Bulletcast Awards also are released. So please, listen to this episode, then go listen to the Bulletcast Awards. We had a lot of fun there. I know we haven't formally done like a year-end show here on In The Kliq, but listen to that episode and you can hear Brian and I, our thoughts on a lot of the stuff, the major categories throughout the year from this past year. And then this episode's going to be very AEW heavily focused. We haven't had a chance to talk much AEW in the last few weeks. Just so much going on in the year, the holidays, all that stuff. So thank you in advance for downloading this episode. Remember, subscribe to us where you get your podcasts at. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, please give us a 5-star review or 5-star rating. Leave us a comment and review. If you're listening to us on YouTube, give this video a thumbs up. Hit that notifications button so that way you're notified every time new episode comes out. And follow us on social at In The Kliq and intthekliq@gmail.com. So, Brian, yes, so much to talk about the AEW. We haven't had a chance. I think what we're going to do is we're going to talk about tonight's episode of Dynamite, which was their New Year's Smash episode. So here we are. It's the final Dynamite for the month of December in 2022. We'll get into all the major stuff there. A lot happened tonight. Definitely one of the better wrestling episodes for Dynamite in a long time. But let's go through some clickbait news concerning AEW. A lot has happened in the last few weeks concerning AEW. And first one's actually some breaking news. And I forgot to give you a heads up, Brian, if you can, you were kind of reading up on this more. So the big news is with Dragon Lee, and I guess we could bring it up under the umbrella of AEW because last we saw him on mainstream television was on Dynamite a while ago, but back in August. But yeah, you were telling me, so Dragon Lee is officially signed with WWE. Can you fill me in what happened?
That's right. So him and Jalisco, I hope I said that name right, were scheduled, or they went, it had a tag team match against FTR at the AAA show tonight. And where they captured the AAA Tag Team Championships from FTR. And after the match, Dragon Lee, he announced that he is officially signed with WWE and that he should be heading there for the new year. I'm not sure exactly the date, but I mean, that's a crazy announcement. And it kind of caught me off guard and by surprise. I mean, you just beat FTR for the AAA tag titles. And now you're announcing you're going to WWE when I was for sure that he was, kind of locked in with AEW and Ring of Honor and that whole thing, so it's, I mean, that was sort of a bombshell he dropped
Yeah, no, it's crazy because like literally you and I were sitting here talking to each other before we hit the record button, and we just watched Dynamite. You and I were not watching the AAA show, which was Noche de Campeonato. Oh my god, I was practicing beforehand. Campeones. Oh man, everyone's like
Campeones.
Oh wait, I had a pronunciation here. Hold on, I'm gonna listen to this one more time. Hold on, I got it on YouTube. Campeones, Noche de Campeones. Oh my god, my Spanish teacher in high school is probably shaking her head right now, wherever she's at. But I'm sorry. But yeah, Night of Champions, their version of Night of Champions in AAA. But yeah, no, that's the thing. So you and I are sitting here, and like all over Twitter, it's like breaking news. Yeah, Dragon Lee announced at this show. And ESPN, someone's like reporting it first, so that's definitely a big deal. He signed with WWE.
I didn't think they were reporting WWE stuff anymore.
Yeah, I thought there was a little bit of a fallout there between the two companies, but good for Dragon Lee. And you were saying, so what? Probably January he's going to head to NXT. Is that the?
Yeah, I seen Wrestling Observer put on Twitter that he's scheduled to go to NXT in January. So. That's a little surprise too, because I would think someone so skilled as him, and he's been around for a minute. That you'd want to get him straight up to the main roster, but I kind of get it with what's going on in NXT and the fresh new faces and the youth there. You kind of want to maybe build him up, show him to the audience first, and I don't know. Hopefully,
thinking
over there, and
I'm looking it up. So he's 27 years old, so he'll be 28 next year. So definitely, very young, kind of coming into his prime right now. Did big things. I know. Well, first off, NXT, because that makes sense, because isn't January is usually they'll announce their new class for the year, and they'll take the big group shot. So I'm sure we can anticipate in the coming weeks him in a gray WWE Performance Center shirt with the rest of his class. So looking forward to that. But definitely have the mask on and stuff. But good for him. I'm a big fan of his. I caught him here and there in Ring of Honor the last few years. He was with his brother Roosh. They did a lot of great things there. And then let's see.
WWE missed out on who they miss out on?
Oh, signing?
Bandito.
Yes. Yeah.
Bandito. So, Dragon Lee, that's a pretty good pickup, pretty good recover for losing out on.
And Bandito, he wrestled tonight as well. Let's see. He's 27 as well. So it looks like, my guess is WWE, the powers that be, are looking. They're trying to get some more Mexican wrestlers. Latin Hispanic wrestlers in the company. That's really cool. So Bandino was rumored early this year potentially signing with them, but ultimately he signed with AEW. But it looks like Dragon Lee is another option for them. So that's cool that they're trying to add more bodies to the roster, some lucha libre wrestlers. So that's really cool. I like I said, Dragon Lee's awesome. Also, keep in mind last month. Was it last month or was it October? Actually, I had it open up here. Where did that go? Oh, it was over here. Yeah, keep in mind, November 19th, he won the West Coast Pro Wrestling Revolution King of Indies show here in San Francisco at the United Irish Cultural Center. So that was his third time winning the King of Indies. So he's a 3-time King of Indies champion. And then now it looks like less than 2 months later he's going to be heading off to WWE. So I'm bummed I didn't get to see that in person. So that would have been a great opportunity to see future WWE star in person there. Hence why, can't say enough, if you have a chance to go to your local indie shows, please do so, because you see the next fresh set of future stars at your local wrestling show. So support that. But Dragon Lee is going to be off. The WWE. It's interesting though that he's going there, because I thought, and you and I were talking off air, that I thought his where he was going to stay in AEW because, you know, him and his brother Roosh had a little thing going with Andrade. But the last time we saw them was August when Kenny Omega came back, and it was the Elite versus Roosh, Andrade, and Dragon Lee. They wrestle each other. The Elite win. And then that was a really, I remember, awkward ending of that episode of Dynamite because it was very rushed, no pun intended. But Roosh and Andrade just out of nowhere started beating up Dragon Lee, and I guess kicked him out of the group. So, and we never see Dragon Lee again. So I thought maybe they're just trying to find something else new for him. But yeah, I'm shocked that, you know, maybe Dragon Lee didn't stay with AEW and, you know, with the relaunch of Ring of Honor because he has a long history in Ring of Honor. But hey, man, more power to him. He's going off on his own, and I expect him to do big things in WWE. What are your thoughts, though, on him going to NXT? Because I was looking on Twitter a little bit, and some people were kind of complaining, be like, oh, he's too good. He should just go right up to the main roster. It was like, well, my thought is, no, you got to kind of learn the WWE system. And they got to kind of train you their style of doing things. And NXT, the Performance Center, that's what it's built for.
Yeah, that's true. And I guess I initially, when I saw the report that he was going to NXT, I was like, oh, man, like, well, that sucks. Like, it'd be really cool to have him on the main roster. I know they, you know, I mean, I immediately think like all the matchups and all the, because I'm thinking, okay, you know, under Triple H's regime, like he can really get some great matches in with, you know, Ricochet, with Santos Escobar, you know, with even, you know, even bigger guys like Kevin Owens, and you know, the list goes on. And so, but then I'm thinking, okay, maybe it is better he learned the WWE system, and then I guess kind of build like that name, that reputation in WWE or in NXT through NXT. I know they're trying to change the culture in NXT, and they're trying to make that the developmental system, but also kind of like old style NXT, like, hey, like we're bringing a lot of, hey, this is would you consider Dragon Lee an indie guy?
Well, that's the thing. I'm glad you're bringing that up, because I know NXT 2.0 pros and cons. I know a lot of the traditional black and gold era of NXT, a lot of people hated 2.0 and its presentation, and kind of they got rid of all the indie talent that were there, and in favor of more of like, you know, former D1 athletes and you know, kind of like these college athletes that they're trying to groom into pro wrestlers versus people who were actually want to be pro wrestlers, were doing their time on the indie scene, came to WWE. And so you got this, but that was under kind of like the Vince McMahon, Bruce Pritchard era. Now NXT, it seems like it's kind of going back a little bit to the Triple H black and gold era, but a little bit with the, you know, facelift with what 2.0 kind of brought to the table. So it looks like they're still maintaining a lot of like these, you know, D1 athletes who are training to become pro wrestlers, but they're bringing in a lot of talent, a lot of the talent from like NXT UK, starting to sign some indie talent. So I think that's a great way. You get a good balance there. You got these, you know, veteran wrestlers from the indie scene that can come in and help work with these, like, you know, really green, talented D1 athletes. So I think that's a good balance there. So it sounds like that. I kind of think maybe that's what Dragon Lee's being brought in for, is, you know, he could help, you know, put on some amazing matches. So, you know, maybe that's the thing. It's like they're trying to get back to the black and gold era a little bit by signing some indie wrestlers. They're probably not going to sign as many as they did back in the day, because they got so many people in the Performance Center right now, these college athletes. But with that being said, I'm excited for what the direction of NXT is in 2023, especially them going to go on the road. They're going to do, was it Vengeance Day? It's going to be in Charlotte, so it's going to be on the road as well for that. But also, you know, I'm kind of thinking, you know, I said earlier, I'm glad they're trying to bring in some more Lucha Libre wrestlers again. Keep in mind, they lost quite a bit. Like Lucha House Party, all those guys were let go. So I think it's kind of cool to kind of maybe bring some fresher, younger talent in, kind of replenish that style of wrestling in WWE.
Oh yeah,
because Legado, they're on the on SmackDown now. They don't really have outside of that. I'm trying to think who else. Rey Mysterio, obviously Dominic Mysterio. So it's kind of cool that maybe Triple H is like, or whoever, Shawn Michaels, whoever's like, hey, we got to get some more Hispanic wrestlers into the WWE system. So Dragon Lee could be the start of that. So, no, I'm really excited for that. So, yeah, you got Dragon Lee and all these other guys coming in and, balance out the little bit greener talent of these college athletes. So we shall wait and see what happens. All right. The other thing I want to talk about, Kliqbait news, is the whole William Regal stuff. And I know it's been talked to death. You and I haven't had a chance to talk about it. And we don't have to go super long into this because I know it's kind of a bit old news now, but I just do want to touch on it for this podcast. So, Brian, it's been documented. William Regal, no longer in AEW. He reached out to Tony Khan, asked to be out of his contract. And there was a lot of different reports about the status of his contract. And I think the main story is he signed like a 1-year contract, but with like a 2-year option. And he pretty much asked Tony Khan, like, please do not pick up my 2-year option. Just let my 1-year contract go out, and then I can just walk away after that. Is that the kind of the general story there?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, definitely.
Which I was kind of confused by because he debuted at Revolution? Was that March? I want to say.
Yeah.
And he got released in January, I think it was. So I was kind of confused at the timeline. So he didn't actually do a full year, but it was announced, that he's gonna re-sign with WWE or he'll start in January, and he has a new title, right? Let me see.
He does.
What is the new job title?
I believe it's It's a vice president.
Yeah, William Regal to have vice president role in WWE. That is awesome. So that was a couple weeks ago. So yeah, this is courtesy of PW Insider. So Regal and WWE have finalized a deal that will see him return to the company the first week of January, and he'll be vice president with the company. Although his actual job title has not yet been revealed, Regal's previous title at the company had been WWE Director of Talent Development and Head of Global Recruiting, which I kind of think, let's see, isn't it kind of more like Shawn Michaels? He's like, the talent development now with NXT. So, but no, that's cool.
I'm sure if Regal, I'm sure Regal will still have his hands in that talent development pool.
Absolutely. So, I know, Brian, you were actually on the Ring of Honor Final Battle media call a couple weeks ago, and Tony Khan, that was his first time publicly addressing the whole situation because there was a lot of speculation for the last couple weeks before that. But long story short, and please, jump in and correct me if I got anything wrong. Tony Khan pretty much said he had a conversation with William Regal. William Regal asked him, please do not pick up my option on my contract. Just let it expire. I want to go back to WWE because I want to work with my son, Charlie Dempsey, who's now becoming a regular on NXT, who got started NXT UK. And pretty much he only works with his son. That's his main reasoning. It's I think he said something, it's an important opportunity right now. He doesn't want to miss this opportunity to work with his son. And I think it's something like he's in a good relationship right now with his Charlie's mom or something. I hope I'm not screwing that part up, that detail there. But it just sounded like William Regal is in good graces with a lot of members of his family, and he wants this opportunity to work with his son. So hopefully I have that part right. And then Tony Khan, and that's the why I'm bringing this up. I just want to give Tony Khan credit for allowing this. Tony Khan could have been a total dick and say, no, you got to stick this out. You sign with me. You're not going anywhere. You're not going to the competition. But Tony Khan, to his credit, listened to William Regal and granted his release from the company. And that's, I want to applaud Tony Khan for that. Partly because Tony Khan, what he was going through at the time, right? Like his mom was having some was it a stroke, if I remember correctly?
Yeah, it was a stroke.
And she had like a second stroke.
It was a couple of strokes.
and he was in the hospital, and he was in the emergency room with her, and he stepped outside and had the conversation with William Regal. And that's when it was kind of a wake-up call for Tony Khan, just the importance of family and being there for your family. And what Tony Khan was going through in real time, he does not want to prevent a father and son from being together because he's dealing with his stuff with his own mom. So he just saw the importance of family and sticking together. So just unfortunately, Tony Khan was going through something, but he realized the importance of family sticking together. And so he realized he wanted to, do right by William Regal and have a chance to go back and work with his son. So I definitely want to applaud Tony Khan for that. Like I said, he could have been a total dick and not let it happen.
A lot of people, gave Tony Khan his flowers and applauded him, and a lot of people didn't, right? Like a lot of people was, no, why would you let him go? And, not too many, but I did see a few. And I just want to say that, while his decision to let William Regal grow might have been greatly affected by, what he had been going through with his family and his mom and, the strokes that she suffered. While that may have been, a huge deciding factor on why he let William Regal go, it doesn't change the fact that it's still the right thing to do, right? Regardless. And I think Tony Khan knows that as well. Like, he understands. He did say on the call that he, this wasn't going to be a thing that he can honor for everyone, right? Like, he can't do this for everyone. Basically not everyone's going to have the opportunity to leave under those circumstances, right? But because of what he was going through and at that time, how close everything was, and he just couldn't, he couldn't do that to someone or to a father-son relationship. He couldn't do that. He couldn't keep he's not wanting to keep his son. He's not wanting to keep no one away from their kids. And I think that was really cool from Tony Khan. Yeah. It made me kind of, made me feel, I felt bad for Tony. And it was everything. It was like sadness, but then you're happy at the same time. Like, Tony Khan's a good guy, man. And because you're right, he didn't have to do that. He's running a business at the end of the day. So really, he didn't have to do that. So really
sorry,
cool
not to, on NXT's Instagram page, they posted official video of Dragon Lee announcing he's heading to NXT. So it's trippy. This video, I haven't listened to it, but they got the text with it. But it's just funny. If you look at the video on Instagram, he's holding, the AAA tag team title, but you see FTR sticker on it still. So, so let's see here. Let me, if I can watch this video real quick. So it's a short little clip here.
FTR sticker.
You see the FTR sticker. This is, I'm going to continue representing my country as I've done until now. My Mexico, this is for you. Let's see what it says. And for all the people that had trusted me. So WWE, there I go. Let's see what else. 2023 is going to be a new year for me. And this is for Mexico. Let's go. Okay. So this is the translation on the video here, the captions with it. I'm very happy. Thanks to all the people who accompany me. And that's all. Thank you. So yeah, NXT put this video on their Instagram. Breaking: Dragon Lee has officially announced that he's heading to NXT. But yeah, it's funny. He's holding up the AAA tag title, and you see FTR sticker still on it. So,
wow.
So yeah, no, it's official. So anyway, sorry. Go back to what you were saying about Tony Khan. Yeah, no, like I said, I do respect that he saw, unfortunately what he's going through with his mom, but he sees the importance of family and saw, he has enough respect for William Regal to say, yeah, I'll grant you your wish here and go back and work with your son. And also, we got to respect William Regal. That's how you properly do business. He didn't badmouth the company or try to do something to get himself fired. He respectively, walked up to Tony Khan, had a meeting with him, explained him, his thoughts. I know this was going back, was it All Out? I think initially when this all started happening, these conversations was September, October. I think the initial conversation started. So, William Regal, true gentleman, professional in pro wrestling. I think for anyone out there, see how he handles himself and, ask Tony Khan what to do. And it looks like they left on good terms. So that's good. That's the smart way to handle things. But with that being said, William Regal, I saw some people trying to be cynical here and be like, yeah, sure, he's saying he wants to go back and work with his son, but realistically, because he just wants to go back to WWE and work with Triple H, which, hey, that's fine too, whatever, but I'm sure...
And I was going to say, what's crazy is that the word thrown around at that time was he wanted to go work with his son and be a coach, and then the report comes out that he's actually going to be... the vice president. It's just all right, we see what's going on.
Yeah, like I said, I'm sure William Regal, probably was like, okay, I want to get back to WWE. What can I do? Well, I have a perfect out right now. My son just joined NXT. He has a perfect out there, and I'm sure he has more hidden motivation. Let's be real, Sure. And then there was other reports. I think it was the EC3 and other people making accusations that William Regal was upset, working AEW and calling out management, all this stuff. And a lot of people are saying that's not true. It's false. And it was Brian Pillman Jr. said he would actually go down to the ring, and William Regal always made himself available before Dynamite started. Go down to the ring and gave coaching, learning lessons, would sit in the stands with people, with the wrestlers, and give them tips of camera work and become friends with the camera people because they're the ones who put you on TV. So it seemed like William Regal, while he was an on-screen manager for the Blackpool Combat Club, he really behind the scenes was doing a lot to give back to the AEW roster, which I think is really cool too. So, that's something that needs to be applauded too. So, but yeah, and then on TV, we saw, I was going to ask you real quick your thoughts on how they wrote him off. And that's the other thing I do want to say. I guess part of the condition for him going back to WWE, he can't be on TV for one full year. So while it's exciting to see him back at WWE, do not expect him to come on TV anytime soon, the War Games or anything like that. So his job with WWE is behind the scenes role for now, for 2023. So I'm a little bummed that if they do War Games again on the main roster, we won't get to see him yell out War Games, at least until 2024 theoretically. So
speaking of that,
but I'm happy to see him back.
Speaking of that, what's your I want to know what your thoughts, because also on that call he mentioned Tony Khan mentioned his thoughts on the tweet that Triple H put out of kind of like I don't know what the word for it is, like a mashup of William Regal,
a collage, yeah, collage,
and he didn't like that very much. Do you think that?
I mean, Triple H probably knew that William Regal was on his way back, and while he didn't have him physically, help with the promo of this War Games on the main roster, he thought, okay, what's a workaround? Okay, I can show old clips of him saying it in NXT,
right?
So now looks like it's probably a little foreshadowing his return to WWE. I just feel like Tony Khan, he seems to kind of get mad at every little thing WWE does that he feels is a jab at him. But then again, he took a lot of jabs, or AEW's taking jabs at WWE. So it's just a little, I think, friendly back and forth. I
kind of feel bad for Tony, because when Tony talks about how he's being treated by WWE, right, and he never really goes into detail. Like great detail on what he means by that, but I can't help but feel bad for him sometimes, because it's man, there's something there. Do they really hate him? Does he because I know before he was a fan, right? Tony was a fan, and he loves the business. He liked WWE. There's no secret. When they would come to Jacksonville, he would always come bring Jaguar goodies and gifts and stuff for everyone. And so it's just, it's pretty crazy. But I know that Tony probably uses whatever it is that's gone on behind the scenes as fuel to his fire and motivation to continue to put on great shows and give us the great wrestling that he gives us on a weekly basis.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure. Like I said, you and I are not in Tony's head, but I think anytime he sees something that, like I said, could be a jab towards him, he takes a little extra personally. I think that's just because since he's the owner of the number 2 company of AEW, they are WWE's biggest competition right now. So I'm sure for him, maybe that's just his competitive instinct kicking in and be like, oh, look what he just posted. That's obviously directed towards me. So he's just kind of, I think, taking everything a little personally. And I've seen multiple people said this. It's almost like, just got to worry about yourself and worry about your company and just don't get so caught up at what the other person's doing. Just worry about putting the best show out there as you can. So, yeah, like I think for him, probably thought it was a jab because, like, now we know for the last couple months he was dealing with this William Regal issue behind the scenes. And then but I'm sure he, granted William Regal his release. And then sure enough, Triple H posts a video of William Regal out. And he, now we know, now looking back in hindsight, he probably felt that was a dig at him. And it's like, haha, you let him go. He's coming back to us now. Like, he worked you. I don't know. It's hard to tell. But
that makes sense.
It's like if you and I did something and, someone, or I'm not trying to think of a good example here, but I'm sure for him, it's like, now we know behind the scenes from September, November through November, he was dealing with this William Regal stuff. And Triple H posts that video and he's probably like, what's going on? Oh, how dare they?
Yeah.
But, but then again, like I said, I am excited for William Regal back in WWE. He's arguably one of the greatest minds ever in pro wrestling. And I think he has so much to give. And it looks like in this position back in WWE, he can give back, again, not only to his son, but other members of the roster. So I think it's a huge gain for WWE. If he can help this next generation of talent they have down there, ooh, man, WWE is in a good place right now moving forward. Like another great brain down there helping their talent, man. It's
and help the current main roster if he can help them and it just really makes you think and be hopeful for what is to come for the future, over there in Stamford.
And two things real quick. I mean, one, what role, when I guess a year goes up, do you want to see him back on TV as like a commissioner or it was commissioner, right? NXT commissioner. Could he be there for Raw or SmackDown, and maybe Adam Pearce gets the other show? Is that something you want to see him brought back at some point?
Yeah, it would be it would be a nice touch. Honestly, if you bring him back I would have him run both shows. I think Adam Pearce does a good job running both shows. But imagine if there was William Regal, someone who really can get, because William Regal's got that swagger about him, right? And he can stop a brawl. I've seen him stop many brawls on NXT, right? With just pushing guys in the head, smacking guys, grabbing them by their shirts, grabbing them by their hair, It'd be nice to see William Regal as an authority figure on Raw and SmackDown.
The other thing too is, it would be great to see him on Raw or SmackDown, bossing people around, and maybe some people who had run into NXT now can run in with them again on Raw and SmackDown. That'll be fun to kind of call back, or long form storytelling, come full circle. The other thing too is what I'm excited for, or the other thing too is William Regal. It's so cool that Triple H is taking care of him, and that's something. Also, I think Triple H has said publicly, as long as he has a job, he'll make sure William Regal has a job. I think they're like best friends or very close friends. And it's cool, like Triple H is gaining back all his guys in some capacity with jobs in WWE who were let go in the past. And I think it was Solo Monster or someone, I can't remember exactly, but they said William Regal to Triple H is Pat Patterson to Vince McMahon. And I thought, that's a great comparison. While you know, Vince McMahon had his core group of guys.
That's perfect.
Or Triple H has his core group of guys. And so that's cool that William Regal is Triple H's right-hand man. So, yeah, like what Pat Patterson was to Vince, William Regal is to Triple H. And so that's exciting if they can work together for years to come. And, you know, Triple H's got, you know, William Regal by his side. He's got Shawn Michaels doing stuff in NXT. They're in a good spot. And so I'm excited to see, what they can do. But real quick, one last thing with William Regal. I know we've been going on a lot longer than I thought, but what do you think of how they wrote him off TV with AEW? We saw, you know, he turned his back on on Moxley at Full Gear. Gave the brass knuckles to MJF. He hit William Regal. He hit Jon Moxley. He became AEW World Champion. Then he goes on TV and tells, you know, why he helped MJF, because he wanted to teach a lesson to the Blackpool Combat Club of, you know, you always got to watch your back. And then MJF ultimately turned on William Regal and hit him with the brass knuckles back of the head. He was carried on a stretcher, unconscious, and was written off TV. So what do you think of how that whole conclusion, how they wrapped up the William Regal story in AEW?
It was a little bizarre, but because at the time, you know, I'm not really in the know that he's actually leaving, right? But after, you know, figuring out and understanding, okay, they're actually writing him off, I'm like, oh, okay, I guess it makes sense, right? Like, it's kind of like a passing the torch, not just from Moxley, like literally passing the championship to MJF, but you know, sort of like you know, putting the icing on the cake for MJF and everything that he had been through with William Regal leading up to the Jon Moxley match, right? It's kind of like, haha, I got you, you know. So I think it was good.
Yeah, I mean, I give AEW credit. At least they try to explain all aspects of this and not just write someone off and just leave everyone kind of hanging. At least they had that extra video the following week with Tony Schiavone and William Regal, and you know, William Regal cut that promo to the Blackpool Combat Club, who were in the ring trying to explain his actions, and more or less, you know, he still got love for all of them. The point being, he was just trying to teach a lesson. It wasn't the best explanation or that made sense, but at least it was something. And ultimately, MJF, ultimate heel, the devil, turned on William Regal. So William Regal
was just as good.
Yeah, yeah.
I was going to say that explanation was just. The explanation was just as good as freaking Austin Theory's explanation as to why he challenged for the U.S. title instead of the WWE Universal.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, like, you know, give Regal credit. He went out on his back to put over MJF, and then you know, MJF used it to his advantage to add some heat to his character. So, but it was funny when Regal was explaining himself, you saw Moxley was looking still kind of confused in the ring, like, what? This doesn't make sense. Like, and it's led to the storyline with MJF and Bryan Danielson, which we'll get into in a second. So yeah, I'm glad they at least explained it a little bit. Let's see. I just real quick, I just want to ask about the Miro stuff here. I had that up. So I want to get your thoughts on the whole Miro thing. So, recently, CJ Perry, the wife of Miro, she did a radio interview and she indicated that Miro would likely be returning to WWE someday. Didn't put a time frame on it, but even Dave Meltzer followed up, said, explaining why Miro's been off television for most of 2022. So apparently, even though Miro's only been 4 matches in AEW, Meltzer's claimed because I guess Tony Khan pitched an idea for Miro for a feud, a storyline leading up to Full Gear's pay-per-view, but Miro had no interest in it and turned it down. And because of that, he's been off TV ever since. And so, you know, it was an issue. So it looks like, you know, Miro, the reason he hasn't been on TV much is creatively they haven't anything for him. And most recently, like I said, Tony Khan had an idea for him for Full Gear and he turned it down and didn't like it. So, yeah, just kind of get your thoughts on Miro and I guess how lackluster of a year 2022 has been for him.
Yeah, it's been pretty bad. And it's a shame because I know what this is. This is Miro standing up for himself. And
Okay.
I saw a lot of what people were saying online in regards to the situation and saying that, he was fine with doing what he was doing with Bobby Lashley and, the whole him taking his wife storyline in WWE, but he doesn't want to put anyone over in AEW. And I'm like, well, maybe I get that. But now I think he learned from that, learned from not speaking up, learned from just kind of going with the flow. Right. And I think, he understands and knows his worth, right? I mean, we say that. I say a lot of people say that about a lot of people, and I think Miro understands how massive he is, how massive he could be, how big he was with the Rusev Day stuff in WWE, and that was one of the most over things in the company, and then how over he was as TNT champion and how that kind of went, and he hasn't really done much since, right? And I don't know, was there rumors of him being hurt? Was he hurt?
Yeah. So just a little backstory here. So this time last year, so remember at Full Gear, he was in the finals of that tournament and lost to Bryan Danielson in the finals because then Bryan Danielson had the match with Hangman Page for the title. After that, Miro was injured up to that point, had a bad hamstring injury, and then after that he took some time off. And when Meltzer reported this, this story last week, I know Miro responded to him on Twitter and said, well, what happened between January and June? So the first 6 months of this year, Miro was recovering from the injury, but also at the same time, he was filming an episode of East New York. That's a new show on CBS. I actually saw his scene on there. He was playing a bad guy on there. And then also, the beginning of the year, he actually signed a new deal, right? It was like a 5-year or 4-year extension with AEW. So he signed a new contract. So a lot of people are trying to speculate, well, what happened the first 6 months of the year? So they weren't really using him much then, even when he came back from injury. So I think what happened was he was injured, but when he got healed, they still didn't have anything creatively for him. So that's why he went off and started filming some TV stuff they had the opportunities to do. So apparently at the time, earlier this year, he liked still working with the company and signed that new contract to AEW. But now it seems like things are getting a little sour, like he doesn't like the creative that's being brought to him. He's turning it down, and now his wife is doing radio interviews and telling that, Rusev Day was very popular in WWE, and she imagines he's going to end up back there. So, Brian, let me ask you this. When you hear this, let's say you're in the shoes of Tony Khan. If you hear one of your wrestlers, the wife of that wrestler, going around saying, he's going to return to WWE one day, wouldn't that piss you off a bit? Be like, why am I going to invest more time in energy into you when I know in the near future you're going to leave me anyway? So why do I want to keep pushing you? I don't know. What are your thoughts from Tony Khan's standpoint?
Yeah, it's like one of those things, like as a fan, right? Like whenever I hear someone doesn't want to be somewhere, or us all, not even just me, but most fans, we always say, oh, well, let him go. If he doesn't want to be there, if he wants to wrestle elsewhere, or if if he's not getting any, like if he's not working, if he's just sitting in catering, let him go. Let him go wrestle somewhere else where he'll be utilized, to his full potential, right? And so, but then I also have this point where I always bring up, like, man, like I remember at one point I used to say Vince McMahon doesn't have any soldiers. Like he don't have no one to really just stick by his side like back in the day with the Bretts and Takers and Brett left, the Triple H, the Shawn Michaels, the Undertakers, the Austins, the Rocks. You know what I mean? And so with this situation, it's just like, I mean, if I got a guy and his wife is saying, hey, Rusev Day, he possibly could be going back, it would make me mad, especially if I have plans for him, right? Or we're talking plans, or if he was hurt, right? And it's just like, wait a minute, hold on, we haven't had a chance to really do anything yet. What's this I hear about this I would immediately feel like, okay, maybe I have to draw a line here or set some boundaries or put my guard up, because if I got a guy who's got 1 foot in, 1 foot out, why am I going to put the TNT championship or the AEW championship on him? And some would say, put it on him. That'll make him stay, but not everyone thinks like that, and in this case, it doesn't seem like Tony Khan. It doesn't seem like he this stuff that got out about Miro is making him want to immediately, because people were immediately thinking like, oh, well, maybe he'll be on Dynamite. It doesn't seem like Tony Khan's like rushing to get Miro back on television.
Yeah, no, it's just unfortunate because the whole Redeemer character that he was doing following him losing the TNT title was really good, and these promos and these vignettes airing. But ultimately, it led to nothing because they just stopped airing, and we never saw Miro on TV. The last we saw him was at All Out, where he was a 6-man tag with Sting and Darby versus the House of Black. They picked up the win, but nothing came from that. And then he's been off TV ever since. And like I said earlier, he only had 4 matches this year. So it's just been really sucks that he's doing such great character work in AEW in 2021. That man, you thought like, oh, I can't wait for 2022. They haven't used him. Now, granted, it kind of sounds like he's pushing back on some of the creative stuff, and that's unfortunate because I get it. Maybe from his standpoint, he's like trying to protect himself and his brand.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He doesn't want to maybe do jobs for everyone. He wants to maybe have a meaningful story, but at the same time, you work for AEW. You gotta be professional and do what's presented to you, what the boss says. So unless he had like in his new contract earlier this year, he got a clause in there where he has creative control on his own character, like Hulk Hogan did in WCW. I mean, we don't know the full story. We can just speculate, brother. But it's not going to work for me, brother. But like unless he had a clause where he has creative control, other than that. Yeah, man, you got to do what's told, what's given to you, or, make a suggestion. But I think a lot of people are speculating, well, what was that creative story that he turned down? A lot of people are speculating maybe what Ethan Page is doing with Ricky Starks in that tournament. Ultimately, it was supposed to be Ricky Starks versus Ethan Page at Full Gear, but then remember got bumped to the finals, got bumped to that following episode of Dynamite. So a lot of people are speculating, oh, maybe that was the role Miro was going to have, which... if that's true, I could kind of see why Miro be like hesitant to do it, because like, dude, I went to that finals, that tournament last year. I lost to Bryan Danielson. Now you want me to lose to Ricky Starks? So 2 years in a row, I'm losing. So I can get it from his standpoint. It's like that doesn't make sense. Like I'm not progressing forward with my character. So I can see why he'd be hesitant. But who knows? Maybe Miro one day will explain where he's coming from. But yeah, at the same time, if I'm Tony Khan, I'd be a little upset if the wife of one of my wrestlers is going around saying, yeah, he can't wait to go back to WWE. It's like, yeah, why am I going to invest any more effort, or I'm not going to invest like wins in you, title reigns with you. It's just a matter of time before you leave and go back to the competition. And probably just better off keeping them off TV. And I have plenty of other guys on the roster that are fighting for TV time. I'd rather invest that into them. So it's a catch-22 here. It's like, I can get it why Miro's trying to protect himself, but at the same time, you got to be professional and do what the boss says. And then at the same time, you got to be careful. Like, don't have your wife go around saying it unless that was planned. Unless he told her like, say that just to get it out there so I can get off, working for AEW. Who knows? So
I got a feeling that Miro is going to somehow end up in the lap of Ring of Honor. I got a feeling that he'll end up over there. Possibly feuding with Claudio for the Ring of Honor World Championship.
See, that's the thing. I'm excited for Ring of Honor. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. I was gonna say I feel like there's a lot of history there, and it's something for like I feel like he could knock that out, even win or lose. I feel like it'd be a pretty interesting feud for the two of them.
Were they League of Nations together?
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Was Cesaro? He was, right?
Oh no, wait.
No.
Oh no, I'm sorry. It was just Sheamus, King Barrett, Rusev, and Alberto Del Rio. Never mind. I'm sorry.
Right.
I was
Barrett. It was Barrett. No, I thought so too, but then I'm like, okay, wait, that was Barrett.
Dude, the potential of that faction would have been. I wish they would have done more with it, but ultimately that didn't they just get beat out? Was it by the Shield or was it John Cena? Let's see. Oh yeah, Mick Foley, Stone Cold, Shawn Michaels took him out at WrestleMania. So anyway, I'm just saying, I'm excited for Ring of Honor as far as when the weekly shows get going. They can take that big roster and put some of the talent over there and let that stuff play out. So yeah, if Miro can go over the Ring of Honor and do stuff with Claudio, that'd be great too. So yeah, but anyway, Miro, I can see. I should not be shocked if we don't see him on TV anytime soon, especially if his heart's not truly in AEW and Tony Khan can just put his energy elsewhere. So, yeah, man. Let's see. All right, let's go ahead and talk about this week's episode of AEW Dynamite New Year's Smash. Brian, love to get your initial thoughts on this episode. You and I are texting a little bit. This was arguably one of the best wrestling episodes of AEW this year. What'd you think?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good too. It definitely seemed more like focused on the wrestling aspect, especially because they've got, it's the end of the year. They've got this new rebrand coming up. And honestly, I feel like with all the drama and stuff they've been going through, they've had good shows over the last couple of weeks. They kind of just want to keep it going. It's kind of like a tunnel vision, right, for AEW. You see it with production wise, management, everything. You see it with even the competitors, the wrestlers. They're really just kind of tuning out all the negative energy, and they're going out there and having really great matches. And I question some of the matchups still. Like sometimes they still come out of nowhere sometimes for me, but definitely a really, really good episode of Dynamite tonight.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's been really interesting watching AEW the last few weeks. I really feel like they've been still in this process of, I think, resetting themselves. I think Full Gear was a great pay-per-view for them, kind of clean slate, a fresh start for them. A lot of the matchups that they had there and the new storylines coming out from that. And when I mean clean slate, as far as really just wiping themselves clean of the whole CM Punk drama, the Elite drama with them, the brawl out or fallout, all that stuff, the media scrum. So I feel like in the last 6 weeks, they've really been trying to turn things around, fresh start, a lot of fresh matchups here. And even I think a lot of the younger talent are starting to go over, and we'll go through this real quick, but some of the younger talent are starting to win big matches here. I mean, the Gun Club beat FTR last week. That was a big shocker.
That was
big. Ricky Starks finally had a world championship match against MJF, and even though MJF won, I thought Ricky Starks had a great showing. And the promo battle they had a couple weeks ago, that was great as far as MJF, he's great on the mic, but Ricky Starks held his own and, really, took it to MJF. Now, that's a perfect example of why I wish that match had more build to it. I thought they could really stretch that build up for 3 to 4 weeks before the actual match. They kind of rushed into it. Literally what 2 weeks build, if that, Ricky Starks, got the number one contendership, and then the following week the promo, and then the following week the match. It was seemed really quick they got into it. I kind of wish they would have took their time because
you knew they were going to have a really good match, but the build was just so quick, boom, boom, you know what I mean? And it really doesn't give you enough time to get invested in the story. You're excited for the match, right? You're excited for the wrestling, but you there's no time to really get invested in the story. And for people who might not be familiar, right, with a Ricky Starks, or they might get that promo from Ricky Starks and be like, whoa, like all of us did, like finally, this is a moment. This is what we want. We're excited. What a promo. What a segment, and for that to come and go, well, not so much, because I think he had a really good promo tonight, setting up for what he's got coming up with Jericho. But
yeah,
still, you know what I mean? You want to see more of that, and like more of the long build and less of the boom boom graphic up next week, know. And then the wrestling is always good, but the stories sometimes get told a little too quick.
Yeah, and that was my issue. It was like, you got these two guys who are arguably the pillars of AEW as far as younger talent, homegrown talent. I know Ricky Starks initially got famous or attention for his time in NWA, that first season of NWA Power, but really he came into his own in AEW the last couple years. So you got MJF versus Ricky Starks, which I was excited for. It's like the two guys that you could build this company around long term. And this match for a world title shot should be a big deal. And it was a big deal. But I mean, as far as the build up to it, they really took their time to really build these two guys up as stars and why we need to care about them. But like like you said, they kind of rushed into it. And so it's like, and they just kind of blew their load early as far as, this match happening. Now, granted, MJF won, and I kind of wonder long term, could Ricky Starks be the one to dethrone him at some point next year? And, come full circle, be like, all right, you beat me the first time, but I'm gonna, like, MJF Ricky Starks could be, I'm just, kind of throwing out there, could be their Austin Rock for years to come. It could be they could be the two like guys that go back and forth for years to come, like Flair and Steamboat, or like Austin Rock, like, these two guys who are kind of destined to always fight each other at the top of the company. So I was disappointed. Like I said, they rushed into that title picture with not a lot of build. Like I said, that one promo alone proved that, you should have took your time and could have a lot more promos leading up to that match. But the match came and went. It's over with now. And like you said, Ricky Starks, now his attention's turned to Chris Jericho and what's next for there. But tonight, MJF specifically, we saw he was busy in a suite hanging out there and just trolling the opening match of Bryan Danielson versus Ethan Page. And like, I loved the promo last week, like Bryan Danielson making fun of Ethan Page, and Stokely Hathaway made fun of Stokely Hathaway's bald head, shining. He wore a hat tonight. He called Bryan, what was the insult he gave to him? Raggedy.
Called him a raggedy bitch or something. I don't know.
Yeah, wait. Raggedy. Sorry, I'll just. It says here on YouTube, Raggedy bitch. Is that right? Let's see.
Raggedy bitch. That's
Raggedy
what he
bitch.
called him.
Yeah. Raggedy bitch, you raggedy bitch. Oh, he called me vegetable eater or something. Ethan Page did. So it was so funny. Like Stokely Hathaway is money. Like, I want to see more of him. Like, so we had this match here between Bryan Danielson and Ethan Page, and MJF was in the suite with indie wrestler Daddy Doom, and he said she's the hottest woman all of Colorado. But what'd you think of this opening match here?
It was good. If I'm not mistaken, it looks like they're setting up Danielson and MJF, right?
Yeah, so ultimately that's what it is. It's building up because we saw, a couple weeks ago, Bryan Danielson come out, charge after, run after MJF. It's all have to do to get payback for MJF beating up William Regal. So I'm guessing this is going to lead to a matchup maybe at Revolution. I don't know if it can hold out that long, but this opening match was great.
It was. Danielson is, I mean, I know he says that he doesn't really care to have championships and be in the main event and stuff like that, but I think he deserves it, man. One more, Bryan. One more main event. One more main event. Come on.
Yeah, see, that's my only concern is, like, I'm excited to see Bryan Danielson back in, like, the world title picture, but at the same time, we know how he is. He's more concerned about the wrestling and not so much about, you know, title reigns for himself. He's more just putting on great matches and help putting people over. And with that being said, since this is you know, MJF's, I guess, second big opponent after Ricky Starks, you know, MJF is destined for a pretty long title reign. So, you know, it's unfortunate. We already can anticipate that Bryan Danielson's going to lose here. So it's just like, can Bryan Danielson really afford another loss like that? So, no, but this match was great. You know, Bryan Danielson picked up the victory, and so just adds more fuel. You know, he's pointing up at MJF. So whenever that match happens, it should be a lot of fun here. The other big thing, though, was Hangman Adam Page, a little backstage segment. It was announced if things go well, he should be back on TV in 2 weeks. So it looks like I like the interaction with him and Renee Paquette because she was asking, you know, your thoughts on John Moxley. And he's like, why do you care? And then, you know, putting the dots together, that's John Moxley's wife. So it'd be good to see Hangman back in the ring in 2 weeks after his concussion. But also I want to talk about, speaking of young talent that's been, like, you know, doing big things in AEW, is Top Flight. So tonight they took on John Moxley and ROH World Champion Claudio Castagnoli. Man, Brian, I know Top Flight took a beating tonight, but in the end, I think they won the crowd over for being badasses, for taking that beating. But Blackpool Combat Club destroyed them there. What'd you think of their performance?
I thought it was good, and honestly, it's about time, because I see, you know, Top Flight. They've gotten a lot of praise, a lot of credit, a lot of, you know. I know Dante Martin, Darius Martin's been, you know, on and off the injury shelf, but Dante Martin, I remember, you know, all those times, especially in Daly's place. Jacksonville. I mean, Daly's place, I felt like was when he was born, you know, when he had that sunset flip and then that famous shot of the actual sunset behind him. And he's really good. I mean, I know there were talks, his time and moments in the ring, I believe, with Kenny and the Young Bucks. And so it's about time, I feel like, for Top Flight to just get beat up. You know, like, I feel like they're tough, right? They're tough, and we see them flipping and running and doing everything that they do. But it's enough's enough, you know. Let's rough them up a little bit. Let's kick them. Let's punch them. Let's DDT them. Let's stretch them out, and you know, let's teach them a lesson. So it was really, really cool to see them in there with Moxley and Claudio. But I'm glad they took a little beating.
Yeah, no, I think that's the thing. It's like in defeat, they still come out strong because, you know, like I said, they're both getting beat down. And then, you know, was it Claudio was just giving the elbows to Darius there, and then Darius ultimately just passed out. And then, you know, Claudio submitted him for the win, but, you know, Mox was beating up Dante. So it was like, even though technically it's two baby faces going at it here, I think with this strong showing, I think the crowd be like, okay, Top Flight, sure, they're high flyers and stuff, but they know how to take a beating, and, you know, they are tough guys, and, you know, that's going to be a team to be reckoned with for years to come.
That's what I was going to say, and, you know, while I'm sure it's very difficult for, you know, guys like Moxley and Claudio to go in there and beat up, you know, Dante and Darius, who are, you know, beloved by the AEW crowd, those in attendance and at home, but not do it so much to the point where you look like heels doing it, right? And that's fascinating. That's what's fascinating to me, because it's like, okay, they're beating, like, they just need a little beating. That's all. Like, the people, they don't need to be bloodied and battered, right? But just beat up, roughed up a little bit to kind of light a fire back under Top Flight. Like, okay, we got to make sure we're on our A game for sure next time we're in this ring. And that's what Blackpool Combat Club is really all about, right? hey, we got to rough you up, wake you up, get you on your game. That's what we're going to do, right? And so you can see that element still with the Blackpool Combat Club, and how it all began and how it was just about going in there and battling, having a wrestling match, right? So it was cool.
I was going to ask you real quick, is it kind of odd they're still called the Blackpool Combat Club when the one guy from Blackpool is no longer there, William Regal? Like, I don't know if they need to change their name as the faction, maybe just the Combat Club. Like, it's just kind of funny.
That would be cool. Combat Club would be cool. Yeah.
Maybe.
It is bizarre. It is bizarre, and I know that they want to keep it going, but the Combat Club would have been a nice, like, you know, I would have. I'm glad you said that. Does that, have Moxley kind of take over? Like, this is the Combat Club, right? And have Moxley just officially announce himself as the leader, and there you go. You got a new edge.
Well, it's kind of interesting because like Bryan Danielson's kind of distanced himself from them as well. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, I know he's busy going after MJF, but it's partly because he's trying to get revenge on William Regal's behalf. But at the same time, remember he tried to prevent Moxley from attacking William Regal because he still has a lot of love for Bryan Danielson, or Bryan Danielson has a lot of love for William Regal still because of their relationship and stuff. And I'm curious if that's going to play into some storylines down the road because, Moxley wanted to beat him up for costing him the title, but Bryan Danielson told me, like, no, this guy means a lot to me. Please don't attack him. So I wonder maybe that difference of opinion between Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley can come to a head again at some point. Because remember, that's ultimately how the Blackpool Combat Club came together earlier this year. They were fighting each other. William Regal came in, made them join as a team. So maybe that's ultimately what divides them again at some point. But
Bryan and Mox.
Yes.
Oh, I was going to say, Bryan and Mox have a very Sting Lex Luger relationship.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been several times where like Lex didn't like Macho or Lex didn't like Hogan, and Sting was like, no, these are my friends, and he's looking at Hogan and Macho like, you gotta trust him, he's legit, he's good, I promise, and it gives off that vibe, so it's pretty funny.
Well, so it's interesting because Darius here, he gave a big effort, like I said, he was taking the elbow shots, and then he tried to, throw one last punch at Claudio, but Claudio took out his mouth guard and then hit him with the big home run uppercut to knock him out. And then after the pin, Claudio was like talking to Darius, you could see. So I wonder if it's like, hey, you took a hell of an ass beating tonight. Or so I'm curious what did Claudio tell Darius there. And at the same time, Dante took the paradigm shift from Moxley on the outside. So yeah, Top Flight took a beating. Bryan Danielson's focused on MJF now. Wheeler Yuta, though, just to wrap up this whole conversation about Blackpool Combat Club, confronts Swerve and Swerve's new faction. Wheeler Yuta, though, man, when he talks, he sounds kind of funny to me a little bit. It's like, hey, man, what are you guys doing? Stop that. Like, ghost nerdy kind of voice a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
But I was going to ask you, what is your thoughts on Swerve? Because it looks like Wheeler Yuta is going to go after Swerve now. But we saw last week Swerve ultimately turn on Keith Lee. He had Rick Ross in the ring. Rick Ross called Keith Lee a big mother effer. Swerve came out, ultimately, turned his back on him, beat him up. And then we saw Parker Bordeaux and the tatted face guy. He's a former baseball player. They had a backstage segment with Renee explaining why they turn on Keith Lee. You said, you already know Parker Bordeaux. You'll find out who the other guy is in due time. But we know it's a former baseball player. I forgot his name. But I don't know. What do you think about, real quick, Swerve Strickland, his character work right now? Turn on Keith Lee, use the cinder block to jump on him and put him through the table, get beat up, and he has a new faction now.
So I like what Swerve's doing. He's got it, I think. He's got it, and it makes you smile. Like when I see it unfolding in the ring and I see him doing his work, it really makes me like just smile. Like, all right, Swerve, like I get you, I got you, right? and it seems like Tony Khan and him have like an understanding and maybe like a trust thing going on where he's legit letting Swerve go out there and be him. He's letting him be Swerve, and he doesn't seem very coached or or scripted or anything like that. So that's a good thing. I think that's good for Swerve. I just don't want Swerve's thing to become like, all right, this is the part where we introduce our next musical guest and our next musical guest and our next musical guest. You know what I mean? I don't want it to become same thing for Jade. Like I don't want Jade's title reign. I love Bow Wow. I was a Bow Wow fan growing up. I went to the Scream tours, but like I don't want Jade's title reign and and everything she had going on to be overshadowed or underwhelmed by the presence of a Bow Wow or anything like that. So
okay.
So in the same thing with Swerve, Rick Ross is incredible. I mean,
yeah,
but I want people to talk about how incredible Swerve is. And I don't know if Swerve wants that, because some people just look at what's best for the company, right? And what's the best interest of the company, what's going to keep eyes on the company. But at the same time, I want people to know, I want people to look at Swerve and be like, yo, Swerve is killing it. Not, oh, well, Swerve brought out Rick Ross. And Rick Ross had the best promo that, like, he's a natural. Which he is, Rick Ross was a natural. Both times he was, I mean, he's a meme. Like people who don't even watch AEW use the accusations as a meme. Excuse me, right? So I just, I hope with the two heaters he's got, I think Parker needs a lot more work in the ring. But he also has like these relationships with these rappers and these musical artists and stuff, and so I just don't want it to be. I don't want it to become too musical artist heavy, and keep it what it's supposed to be. Which I guess we're still trying to find out what this is supposed to be.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I think Swerve Strickland, I think we said this before, I think he has the potential to be like the top heel in AEW. I think he is that good in the ring, but also on the microphone and like what's the word? Conniving. Like, he could be cynical. Like I think he could be so good on the microphone. He could be such a great heel that he knows how to get people to hate him and get under people's skin. And I think he could be like, maybe once the MJF heel run, his title champion goes, runs its course, Swerve Strickland could be like the next big heel for that company. And I see that potential in him. Yeah. And I get what you're saying. The focus should be on his character work. And maybe you're worried that like the musical side of things, his musical interests will kind of overshadow that because of how well connected he is. All the musicians he brings to the show, that can overshadow just him as a character, and the focus should be on him as a leader of this new faction.
Well, because even when him and Keith Lee were a tag team, and they were showed. I mean, at one point they had Fabulous and DJ Who Kid was there, and all the blogs posted it, and it was great publicity for AEW. But everyone just talked about Who Kid and Fabulous, right? Being ringside and not so much Swerve and Keith Lee. And so I just I don't want all that to overshadow what he's doing, and he's doing incredible work. I think this whole heel turn, I would have liked to see Swerve attack Keith Lee on his own and just give him a beat down, even with the ad-libbing of Rick Ross and having him, kind of, story tell over it, or, the whole thing, when he had the mic and he was like, oh, even with that going on, I just would have loved to see, I think that was a missed opportunity for Swerve, right? to introduce and bring up 2 new guys, which he could have done the week after and been like, yo. Like if Keith Lee comes out angry, he wants Swerve now, right? But then he's like, wait a second. You got to get past these guys if you want to get your hands on me now, right?
Gotcha. That's a great point. No, I'm with you. Yeah, I kind of wish Swerve would have beat him down one-on-one, and then moving forward, he has these bodyguards to protect him. Yep. So just real quick, the guy with the face tattoos and the braids, he's a former minor league baseball player, Grandin Goatsman, and he's been training for a while at Jay Lethal's school for his AEW debut. So, so yeah, him and Barker Bordeaux, former NXT guy, are going to be, are with Swerve in this new faction here. It's like I said, I'm excited to see what Swerve can do now as full-blown heel with his own faction, and I hope, he kind of just tears it up. I don't know, for like Keith Lee, do you keep him off TV for a while and let Swerve get some wins elsewhere, and then it comes to like build up for a match at Revolution? So maybe keep Keith Lee off TV for a while, sell that injury to Cinder Block. Like I said, that segment last week was kind of clunky and a little awkward and cringe. I mean, Rick Ross, him in the ring by himself, he probably needs, it's probably not a good idea. He's great in backstage interviews and segments like that. He's like better on the mic than some managers and stuff. So he's great.
His timing is perfect.
But by himself in the ring, that was a little tough to watch. I mean, he did have the funny comment to Keith Lee, but other than that comment and the Cinder Block, everything else but that segment was a little off last week. So, but I'm with you. I think it's a great call. It's like, let's Swerve start getting some wins as a heel and build up for him versus Keith Lee at Revolution. I think that's the plan there. And it's good. Let Keith Lee go off on a tear now as a strong solo singles babyface now. That's what I want to see as well. So,
you could have done you could have done that standard story where Keith Lee came out and Swerve's like, wait a minute, I got my guys. Have Keith Lee run through those 2 guys, right? And then finally, and then maybe have Swerve kind of beat Keith Lee up again, put him on the shelf again, and just when you thought he finally put Keith Lee away, he comes back, and now we finally get the Keith Lee versus Swerve match that we've all been wanting.
Yeah, exactly. So,
and maybe they still do something like that. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. So now I'm excited for where this can go. But like I said, I'm really excited for where Swerve can go with this character. That's going to be really interesting here. We got to talk about this real quick. The Elite versus Death Triangle. This is match number 6 of their best of 7 series. This was Falls Count Anywhere match. A couple things, Brian. I guess your overall thoughts on this best of 7 series, where it's going. Ultimately, a couple weeks ago, it was set up that Death Triangle was up 3-1. So now the Elite are making this big comeback to, jumping ahead already. They won tonight, so now it's tied 3-3. The final, or so the last match, match 7 is in 2 weeks in LA. Okay, so let's start first. Your overall thoughts on this best of 7 series?
I thought it was a bad idea at first, and I still kind of think it was a bad idea. Just because it's, I don't know, it's just, and I get it. It doesn't have to, like, excuse me. They've done an incredible job. I guess. Without any promos, without any backstage segments, without really much of anything, just going out there and having matches. They've done an incredible job telling somewhat of a story. I know the story at first was like with the hammer, and then you've got, I almost said Pandito, Fenix. Not really wanting to get involved in all the shenanigans that was going on at first, and then you have, what was it, Nick Jackson's ankle?
And then he came. Nick Jackson, he got hurt and he came back out Willis Reed style, the Knicks.
So I understand, and they did an incredible job doing that. But at this, it's a little predictable we knew it was going to 7, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't know how we were going to get there, but we knew we were getting to 7. And for some people, this is right up their alley with just crazy high flying matches back to back to back like this. They can watch. There's people that can watch these 4 guys all day, every day.
Yeah.
Right. Or I'm sorry, 6 guys all day, every day. But I think it's a lot of the same stuff, which I'm glad that they did the false count anywhere, because that brought a whole different element to it, right? And I think tonight was definitely the better match of, the
whole series.
The whole series, yeah. Definitely the best match that they've done.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think tonight's match was insane. A lot of fun, a lot of great spots there. You just need to watch it for yourself if you haven't done so already, or if you are listening to us right now, I'm guessing you already saw it. It was a lot of fun, but I'm with you. When they first announced this best of 7 series, I thought, oh man, it's gonna be such overkill, because if it's just gonna be 7 straight up matches all the way through, I thought it was gonna get kind of repetitive. I'm glad they added stipulations these last couple weeks just to freshen it up and kind of change it up a bit. So the story early on was, Pac trying to convince the Lucha Brothers start using a hammer, and Fenix used a hammer one match to win. Penta used it in another match for the win. So it's kind of loosely he's turning them heel to use the hammer, and then Kenny Omega got pissed that they were using the hammer so much. He's like, all right, well, no DQ, and that was a pretty hardcore match they had last week, and then this one's falls count anywhere. I like seeing Kenny dressed up. Didn't he have a Ibushi shirt on? Did you notice that? I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I did.
He had the jeans on and stuff, and Fenix jumped from the top of the entrance there, and it started in the back, very chaotic, and then so I'm glad they're mixing it up to make it different each time. But the finish, I really enjoyed the finish here for this match, as far as the way they did it, as far as so we saw in the ring, Penta ate a BT trigger, and then Pac broke up the count. Pac was breaking up a lot of counts in this match. Pac avoided a Meltzer driver, sent Matt into Nick, and locked Matt into the brutalizer as that was going on. So Pac had Matt Jackson in the brutalizer in the middle of the ring. On the outside, we saw Kenny Omega and Fenix up in the crowd, and Omega hit a one-wing angel off the stage through the tables, and the ref over there made the count for the 3, and that was right before Matt tapped out. So the Elite picked up the victory because of Kenny Omega's one-wing angel. So I enjoyed that finish, as far as like 2 different finishers were happening at the same time. So it's just a timing thing. So I'm starting to get invested now more. Like, I still think it's a little bit of an overkill, this best of 7 series, but at least these last couple weeks, since there's been stipulations, it's kind of freshened things up a little bit. And like what you said, I think there's a lot of people watching who are fans of them, and we eat this up and can watch them forever, fight forever, as they say. For me personally, I'm worried they're kind of overdoing it, and I hope after this we don't see them wrestle each other for a very long time. So, early prediction, what do you think is going to happen in 2 weeks? You think the Elite are going to make the big 3-1 comeback, or you think Death Triangle just finally gets the one last victory they've been needing?
Wow, that's on January 11th, right?
Yeah, so it's that big LA show. Saraya is a mystery opponent, or mystery partner, all that stuff.
I would say it depends on if Kenny Omega becomes IWGP United States champion or not. But I don't really think that matters, I guess. Yeah, I think they win. I think they take it here. Yeah.
Okay.
I think they take
the
it.
Elite.
The Elite, yeah. I think Kenny and the Young Bucks take it. One thing I wish that they did, and then I know it's clear who's, I guess the baby face and heels. I just wish they would focus more on that, right? A little bit, like especially when you're having 7 matches like that. Like, you have a lot of time to really pick out like who's the bad guys, who's the good guys, right? And I know the fans are going to cheer who they want, right? But man, I feel like it's a lot of missed opportunity to really give Death Triangle that real bad, like that evil identity, right? That that I know that they all are capable of giving, and which to me would make the Elite comeback that much more meaningful, or a Death Triangle upset that much more impactful, because it's like, oh, and I don't know what lengths they have to go or what you have to draw up, right? Like if you're Tony Khan and everyone who's involved in that decision, like how do you make it so that, like, if Death Triangle does win, how do you, I feel like it needs to happen in like the most shadiest way, to where now Pac, Fenix, and Penta come out just like hated, right? I feel like there's not enough matches we see where one guy's absolutely hated and one guy's absolutely loved. And I'm not saying everyone has to be like that, but every theme song, every time, it's just cheer, cheer, cheer. No one really gets booed except MJF, and when his music hit, the crowd went insane.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's true. It's in wrestling in general today. Like, a lot of people think the heels are the cool guys now, or gals. It's like it's easier to cheer them on because they got that cool factor. And you're right. Like Death Triangle. Yeah, I wish they would do more to set them up as the heels here. But the problem is, like, I don't think Fenix could be a good heel. Like, he has that natural baby face personality and presentation. I know he turned to the dark side and used the hammer in the second match, but after that he kind of almost like regretted it and doesn't want to do it anymore. I think then when Penta did, I think he was a little upset that Penta used it. So it's almost like I kind of wish they would explore that turmoil a little bit more. That Pac is trying to turn Penta bad and Ray's trying to keep his brother good. So like maybe that could be part of the finish in the match 7. But it's just interesting here, like how much are they really going to tap into like that turmoil or difference of opinion of do we win clean or do we cheat to win? So that's interesting to see. But yeah, you're right. I wish they would do a better job of like, are they heels? Then really embrace being heels. That way it makes it'll make more impactful the Elite's big comeback, or do they cheat to win for the heels, the Death Triangle to win at all? So they're like so desperate they don't want to lose match 7, and then they'll be embarrassed losing a 3-1 series lead. So
I guess a lot of these matches, I feel like, oh man, like a lot of these matches I almost be watching wishing like, man, wouldn't it be so cool like if Penta, Pac, and Fenix just stole a victory from the Elite. And I know these days are long gone, but like fans are just throwing crap at them and they're walking up the ramp, and I know those days are over with, but
I do miss those days. Yeah,
man, and then because then it makes for good television. Like next week, as soon as the Death Triangle's music hit, they come out, they cut a promo, they're getting booed. Like that formula, I feel like is missing from everywhere, all companies in wrestling, right? You have like when you have when someone turns heel and then the show goes off, and then you're left like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. And then the next week, as soon as that person's music hits, boo, right? And you kind of waiting for what they got to say, but then the crowd won't let them say it.
Well, that's the thing. You're right. Like I think a lot of times, or AEW, and maybe this observation's off, but yeah, I wish like someone would do like a big heel turn and in it on that note, like a cliffhanger, and everyone's booing, and then the next week's episode, the first segment should be that person coming out right away.
Right.
I feel like sometimes they'll do something big and then they'll keep that person off TV for a while, and they'll say, we'll hear from so and so next week, and it's just like,
yeah,
they kind of cool them off sometimes. Like, we'll hear from so-and-so on next week's episode of Dynamite. Tune in. And it's like, I mean, I get it. You're trying to forward promote and keep people tuning in. But if someone does something major, or especially like at a pay-per-view, let's say they do it on a Saturday or Sunday pay-per-view, then that Wednesday, like 3 days later, they should be first segment out to address the audience and to get that booing that so I do miss that too, the days of someone do something so vile that then the next time they come out and
then it excuse me, it can help elevate the potential challengers now. Like, let's say, for example, Death Triangle. Well, people are really going to want Death Triangle. I'm sorry, not House of Black. Well, they're really going to want House of Black to kick Death Triangle's butts now because of what they did to the Elite and how cocky they are, and how they come out and they said who can say they beat the Elite? Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, 4 times. Right? They got that. They got that title now 4 times. I don't know,
That's the thing is, after this, House of Black should be next up to challenge whoever the winners are, the trios champion. But my only concern is the House of Black just came back. Are they okay losing whoever wins this? I mean, that's my only concern.
Well, right, and I think if you have them, if the Elite wins, then I would think that that leaves House of Black. They gotta destroy him. Like you gotta destroy the Elite at this point. The Elite are happy, they're cheering. They're the new trios champions. They got their belts back that they never lost, right? And then you have House of Black just come in and just destroy. I mean, there's not enough of that, or there's not enough separation. We do see stuff like that where you'll see House of Black come out and Malachi Black is just kicking everyone's heads off and everyone's loving it, right? And then everyone's happy. Oh my God, House of Black and the Elite, this is going to be an awesome match. And they live on that. Like there's no story. They just know, people are anticipating it. They love this matchup. We don't really have to tell the story. We just know in 3 weeks they're going to fight for the trios titles, and that's it.
Man, what they could do is let the Elite win, become new trios champion. They're celebrating. That's the end of Dynamite, and then the lights go black, and then House of Black comes out and destroys them, like just kicks their heads off everything, leaves the crowd booing this big moment. Then the following week of Dynamite, House of Black should be the first ones to come out and just address why they did that and just set them up. But then again, let's say if that's going to be the next program for the Elite, I'm concerned, does House of Black, since they just came back and they're kind of being badasses, can they afford a loss like that right away? I don't know.
Probably not.
I don't know how they're going to do that, because then they're just kind of back where they were. Like they'll have matches, and previously before Malachi Black went on his leave, they would have a big win and then go on a losing streak after. So I don't know how you're going to book House of Black and all this, unless they just win unless the Elite fights them and they have one title defense and lose right away to House of Black. But then again, people be shaking your head like, wait, this is the Elite. I mean, this is Kenny Omega, former world champion, and Bucks tag team champions, and they lose right away. But then again, maybe that puts over House of Black more. I don't know. We're in the booking chair, so that's on Tony Khan to figure out.
Yes.
Real quick, just want to power through these last couple things. I love the Acclaimed music video, just taking a shot at Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. It was just fun, man. It's like those music videos are awesome because it's a great way to put over the Acclaim even more. And since they're baby faces still, they're the raps, the content, the style is still the same, but it's just directed at heels now versus when the Acclaim were heels and they would rap against, the baby face. But now it's cool to cheer for those raps now because they're just tearing down all the heels right now. So I don't know, anything in particular stood out for you? I love Jay Lethal being made fun of for all the Macho Man stuff and the Ric Flair stuff. In TNA.
No, it was good. I do feel like though that I don't know if Jay Lethal and Jarrett are the right decision for the Acclaimed right now.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's my thing. Yeah, I mean, I guess as a first opponent for them after winning the tag titles, it's a guaranteed win for the Acclaim. It's a good first run test for them as a opponent for them. But yeah, it's just
bizarre. It's just bizarre because Jay Lethal and Jarrett, they lost to Darby and Sting. So how do you lose to Darby and Sting, two dudes who are pretty much untouchable as a tag team, right? Like they've been really great as a tag team when they do have tag team matches. How do you just walk, you go away from that and now you're in the tag title picture, right? It's just bizarre. And it's one of those things that I just wish would stop because it happens so often in AEW where it's just like, why are these guys getting an opportunity? But I get it.
Well, the rankings have been gone for what, since August, so they got rid of the ranking system more or less. But no, it's not fair. They jumped the line.
Those things are sitting in the trash with the 24/7 title.
Absolutely, I agree on that one. So no, I love the video. I love that. They said Jay Lethal only was known because of his impersonation of Macho Man, and Jeff Jarrett, his failure with Global Force Wrestling and stealing Kurt Angle's wife. So it was a lot of great shots there. So I loved it. So it's gonna be fun for that match when it does happen. Shout out real quick. I know Jeff Jarrett was on an episode of AEW Dark recently. They posted a clip of his promo on, I think, AEW's Instagram. I loved it because the way Jeff Jarrett conducted himself in the ring, it felt like an old school promo, like NWA style in a studio setting. Yeah. Like the crowd was booing him, and Jeff Jarrett had them in the palm of his hands. Even today, Jeff Jarrett knows how to handle a crowd that's booing him. He stopped, he looked at him, took his time, called them out, and then ignored them, looked at the camera and focused on his opponent he was talking to. It's still a great promo, and it just shows why I'm excited to see Jeff Jarrett in AEW. If he could help the younger roster, how to deliver a promo, how to control an audience. Like I said, him wrestling on Dark in that promo just felt like an old school NWA TV studio match, post-match interview, all that stuff. I loved it. So, looking forward to that. Real quick, we saw Anna Jay and Tay Melo defeat Ruby Soho and Willow Nightingale. Brian, you're telling me Tay Melo and Sammy Guevara got stripped of the mixed AAA tag titles, right? Because they didn't make the appearance tonight down there in Mexico. So that's the problem with AAA. I think when they put a lot of their titles on people who work for multiple promotions, you have these scheduling conflicts. So Conan came out tonight and said, hey, they've been canceling on us a lot, so we're going to strip them of the titles. So they have new AAA mixed tag champions now. So this match here was a lot of fun, though. As far as, I love Willow Nightingale. I think she's a star, man. I love watching her wrestle. It was a lot of fun there as well, seeing them go at it. But I do want to real quick, we forgot to kind of miss the headline earlier in regards to Dragon Lee winning the AAA Tag Team Championship with Dralistico. They beat FTR. So FTR have lost, they had 3 titles most of this year. They had the AAA tag titles, the Ring of Honor tag titles, and the IWGP tag titles. So they lost Ring of Honor tag titles a couple weeks ago at Final Battle to the Briscoes. They dropped the AAA tag titles tonight. Are they going to go 0 for 3 and lose the IWG tag titles at Wrestle Kingdom here? And what does that mean for FTR's future? Man. I think that's the big question.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. They are defending the titles at Wrestle Kingdom, so it looks like they're on a road to losing all their titles. They were the belt collectors at one point. It kind of sucks that they weren't able to win the AEW World Tag titles along with those other titles that they won. But I will say that I know a lot of people online are talking FTR possibly going back to WWE. So this is their we're going to put everyone over type deal. If that's the case, I mean, hey, it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because Dax Harwood, his new podcast, I think, launches tomorrow. So it's interesting that he's going to launch a podcast, but if they're dropping all these titles because, their contracts are going to expire next year, and does that mean they're going to go back to WWE? Well, can he keep this podcast going while working for WWE? That's a big question there. So, yeah, if they dropped IWG tag titles at Wrestle Kingdom, then, yeah, FTR's future, where it goes next, that's really going to be interesting there as far as, are they going to re-sign with AEW? Are they going to go to WWE? So that's something to keep your eye on, especially with FTR's future, what's next for them. So, but sorry, not to go off on a tangent right there, but yeah, I just do want to say, I forgot to mention that earlier, FTR's future is up in the air now. But yeah, Anna Jay, Melo, they pick up the win over Ruby Soho, Willow, Nightingale. And then the main event here, we saw TNT and ROH TV champion Samoa Joe against Wardlow. Earlier tonight, we saw Wardlow doing a backstage interview with Renee. Samoa Joe comes up, attacks him, uses a pipe to take out his knee. Then the question, what I like about that is that happened early in the show, and then you got that drama carrying out throughout the rest of the night. Is he going to be able to wrestle? He's with the doctors right now. Can he come out? I like that storytelling where you have like that mystery throughout the night, the anticipation, what's going to happen. Then you get to the main event, and you're like, all right, what's going to happen? Sure enough, Wardlow does come out, even though Samoa Joe said, oh, he's too hurt. I can find someone else, or he's too hurt to wrestle. Shame on him. But Wardlow does come out and puts up a pretty good battle here. What'd you think of the main event?
It was good. I'm just sad because I really, Wardlow, man, he was on such a roll. He was on fire. And while it's like I love Samoa Joe too, right? Like I feel like Samoa Joe's being utilized a lot more now. And when he first came to AEW, I was like, oh man, he's being put on a shelf. He's a Ring of Honor television champion. We're not going to see him wrestle that much. But then he won the TNT championship, and I'm like, oh, okay, that was different. And then now it seems like he's really getting into himself, and especially with this match, I think Joe's matches are getting better and better by each match. And it's just still weird that Wardlow here is taking L's, and he was like he's supposed to be the next big thing,
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Like, I love seeing Samoa Joe be a badass heel and just beat up everyone. But at the same time, it's at the expense of Wardlow here, who's, coming out of Double or Nothing, seemed like to be the next big star for AEW. And he's really cooled off in the last couple months here. But the match itself was really good.
I do love the spot. I do love the spot where he went up for the swanton, but then... Yeah, and then his knee, like he was selling the knee thing. So Wardlow, he was doing a really, really great job selling the beatdown that he had taken earlier in the night.
Yeah, and that's the thing we saw towards the end. Wardlow was trying to go for a power bomb, but he crumbled down. Samoa Joe chop blocked the leg, and then he put him in the rear naked choke. Wardlow fell unconscious, and Joe was able to retain the titles. And this is Wardlow's first singles loss since March this year. And then he got up, and Samoa Joe was staring him down like, oh, is he going to show him a sign of respect? No, hit him with the title in the face to Wardlow. So then Samoa Joe laid him out. And then he went down the ringside looking at the toolbox and pulled out the pair of scissors and cut off his man bun off Wardlow. So that was a little bit of a shocker. And then as Samoa Joe was celebrating with the TNT title and Wardlow's hair in his hand, Darby Allin came out. He attacked Joe with the skateboard, and Samoa Joe went running off. And then Darby Allin held the TNT title and stared down Joe to end the show. So you were telling me off the air you had your thoughts about this, so explain how you think they kind of fumbled this a little bit.
Yeah, such a great moment to really kind of kick it into gear to rebuild back up that sympathy for a guy like Wardlow. Samoa Joe just beat him up, made him pass out, right? He didn't tap out, but he made him pass out, right? And so he comes over, and it looked like there was, I don't know what it was. It was like maybe like a respect. I don't know if it was respecting or what going on, but Samoa Joe attacking Wardlow after the bell and then grabbing the scissors, cutting his hair was like, I felt like, why isn't anyone making a big deal about this? Like, this is a big deal, right? This is, when you cut someone's hair, it's like, whoa, okay, what the heck is going on? And then for it to just completely shift into who obviously is Samoa Joe's next challenger and Darby Allin. And no shade to Darby Allin, he's great, but like, while he's still in the ring, like, while we're supposed to be sympathetic and be like so sad and like angry at Samoa Joe for what he just did to Wardlow, we now are like, oh, well, who cares about that? Darby's here. Let's go, Darby. And I get it. Like, it's just weird how it just happened too fast. You could have easily waited next week to do that. Again, maybe open the show with Joe and then have Darby come get back, and then that's you either start off the show hot with that or later in the night, but and then you could tell that story of he's getting payback for Wardlow or he wants the TNT championship or whatever. If you need to write Wardlow off or if Wardlow's gonna go away and obviously come back with a new look, he doesn't have the man bun anymore.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, you brought up something very interesting that I think AEW's had a problem for years is letting moments breathe, letting things just a big dramatic moment happen and just let it breathe, let it settle. Case in point, remember SCU a couple years ago, if they lost their next match, they were going to break up and was against the Young Bucks. They lost and they hugged it out in the ring, but they quickly changed they went to the next scene, I think, right away. So what was supposed to be a big dramatic hug, like them saying goodbye, it was immediately cut off and they went on to the next thing. And you as a viewer, you're just like, oh my God, my attention has to change elsewhere. You didn't have time to soak it in and really like, whoa, like decompress. Whoa, I just saw something major, dramatic happen here. Like, nope, you got to move on to the next thing right away and forget about what just happened. So I think that's a problem sometimes AEW has. Like, when you have a big dramatic moment, let that breathe, let that set in with the audience at home, let them, process it. Then you move on to the next thing. So yeah, you brought up a good point. That's a big deal. Cut his hair.
Yeah.
I thought visually that'd be great. Samoa Joe holding the TNT title in one hand, the lock of hair in the other, and he's just like breathing and like, yes, like I am the best.
I think it was even crazier that he was holding up the TNT title and he had the hair in his hand and it looked like he threw it down on the ground. And then it just went to Darby. I was like, I haven't finished registering what he just did to Wardlow and how, and I'm thinking like, oh man, when Wardlow wakes up from being unconscious or whatever state he was in, he's going to be angry. He's going to get that knee better. He's coming back for his TNT championship. And while you obviously need some people like Darby in the middle so Samoa Joe has somebody to, wrestle and go up against while we get Wardlow together, I still feel like Wardlow needed that moment. The camera panned to him, show going off the air, Wardlow laying, or maybe Wardlow wakes up and he notices his hair is gone and he gets angry like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, imagine back. I'm sorry. Imagine back, in the Attitude Era when X-Pac got beat up. I don't know. I forget what it was, but X-Pac got beat up and Kane showing that emotion. He was like, Sean, right? Imagine if they just went to the next segment.
No, but you're right. Like that's the thing.
Was impactful.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I thought that would be a great way to end the episode tonight. Samoa Joe standing over Wardlow with the TNT title in one hand, the lock of hair in the other, and just him like breathing heavily, pissed off, like, I just beat your guy. I embarrassed him. And then it just fades to black. That's a great way to build some heat on Samoa Joe. Just end it there. And then the following week, let Samoa Joe come out, like first segment. He comes walking out and he has the ROH title around his waist, the TNT title on the shoulder, and a lock of hair in the other hand. Like he's carrying it around. It's almost like I'm trying to think of an example, but yeah, it's a trophy of like he's going to go around collecting things from different people he's defeated. So this is a new trophy for him. Like, and he cuts a promo saying like, I got Wardlow's hair, be careful whoever faces me next. I'll get something from you that I want to take away from you. So like that could be like a great story element. He's like a hunter taking out his opponents and he takes something from them. But the lock of hair is like an expression of that, or represents him as a hunter now, like taking things from people. And then as he's cutting that promo, then that's when Darby Allin comes out and attacks him and tries to get revenge. But yeah, tonight you brought up a good point as far as that's a big dramatic moment. He cut his hair and he's standing there, celebrating. You didn't have time to process it fully before Darby Allin comes rushing out and attacks him. So he tried to force too much at the end. You could easily just have Samoa Joe come out next week celebrating his victory still and like, look, I got a trophy now. I got Wardlow's hair. And he's just basking, being cocky. And then you can have Darby Allin come out and attack him. And who knows, like you said, then he would have heat built up on him for the last week. People like, oh my God, he cut his hair and he's mocking him now and celebrating it. Yeah. Darby Allin comes to the rescue then. You let that breathe for a week. So
I like that. And I would even go, I like that idea of the trophy or taking something from someone. I'd have him beat Darby and then have him just smear all the paint off his face. Right. Like, as just like I'm gonna show the people who you really are. Right. You're not Darby Allin. You're whatever. Right. You can make something up like that. That whole story of taking something from somebody would be really good. And like every time he gets in there with somebody and wins and he does something crazy. Right. Like rubbing Darby's paint off, or
taking a skateboard or something.
Taking his skateboard, smash it, or beating him up till he's bloody, stuff like that, and then really make the fans hate you, because I feel like there's not. While everyone says MJF's the biggest heel, right? He's not, and that's just same thing WWE, right? Like I feel like Roman is the heel, right? He's the biggest, but he gets cheered when he comes out, right? There's no like big, nasty, mean heels in wrestling right now, and I felt like that was a missed opportunity to really create something big for Samoa Joe and have great momentum for, Wardlow when he eventually gets back in the mix, and then even Darby on this journey back to the TNT title. If you didn't have his back before, you certainly have it now with what he did to Wardlow and, what he's saying he's planning to do to Darby, right?
That's the other thing too is, keep in mind, the big, let the haircut be the big moment to end the show tonight. Next week, Samoa Joe is basking in his victory, showing off his trophy, the lock of hair. Then Darby makes the save. Then another dramatic moment, either maybe in that same episode or wait the following week. Wardlow comes out embarrassed with like a beanie on or something and has to reveal his short hair now. That could be another dramatic moment. And like Wardlow, feels so down on himself for not only losing, but being embarrassed on national TV, and he has to reveal his haircut. Like that could be a character moment. You got to build him up that way. So I don't know. They should let us start booking the show now, Brian. I think that's what should be happening.
We gotta ask Tony, man.
So, on that note, let's start wrapping things up. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode of In The Kliq. We did our best to kind of not only talk about what happened on Dynamite tonight, but what's been going on in AEW for the last few weeks. So, good catch-up episode here. Really enjoyed that. So, all right, let's start wrapping things up. Brian, where can the Kliqsters find you online?
You guys can find me at BrianTronic on both Twitter and Instagram.
And I'm Baby Huey. Follow me on Facebook at Baby Huey Official, Twitter and Instagram at Baby Huey83. For everything else, at In The Kliq on social media. Subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts at, and email us intthekliq@gmail.com. Also, if you get a chance, look up the Fight Game Media podcast, the Fight Game Media Network. check out my recent episode or my recent appearance on John LaRocca's podcast, the Take It Home podcast. We review all of Triple H's rehires in WWE. That was a lot of fun to talk about. And if you're listening to this right now, I imagine around the same time, the latest episode, the Bulletcast, is out now. Bryan and I are on there for the Bulletcast Awards year-end show, just going over all the different categories, the winners and losers of all that stuff. It was a lot of fun discussion there, so please subscribe to the Bulletcast as well. All right, on that note, let's go home, and that's the bottom line because Huey said so.